ball, and we're gonna understand this thing is about winning the championship. We only need one ball. Maybe need a couple in practice though. Maybe a couple more.
When you started that conversation with Kevin, was he against it at first? I mean, did
He
you
was
really
kind of
have to
like,
turn?
what, you know what? And I was like, well, you understand what's going on in Boston. The Clippers situation seems to be dead. So what do you think, Big Phil? I know you don't want to retire. I know you don't want to retire. You have too much in the tank. You love the game too much. So sometimes you have to just tell Kevin, sit back and think about it. He reacts to everything. Like his initial reaction to everything is no. Kevin got $100 million, no. And then he has to sit back and think about it, and then once he warms up to it, he makes his decision, and that's about anything. And I knew the initial reaction was going to be against it, but then I knew this was going to be a long conversation too.
Paul, you sound convinced that the Celtics were going to trade you even before this deal came out. What made you convinced of that?
Well, I thought the writing was on the wall. You saw Doc was leaving. Rondo was hurt. Probably not going to be back until probably December, January, who knows. I talked to Rondo this summer also. And so you felt like if I was a GM and I looked at the situation, and I one day probably plan on being a GM if that's possible, I think I probably would have made the same decision. I mean, there's some sentimental things that go along with me and Danny being together for so long, but at the end of the day, he works for the Boston Celtics. He doesn't work for Paul Pierce. He works for a franchise that's going to be around a lot longer than me. And he has to make the best decisions that he can for that franchise. And if I was in his position, I think moving forward, I would have probably done the same thing.
What were your thoughts in Brooklyn after playing it for the first time last year?
Man, I love the excitement with the city. You got the new arena. You got a great owner whose goal is he wants to win a championship. And you can see that by the moves he made, not only this year, but last year, by re-signing Darren, by bringing in Joe Johnson. You knew that this was a franchise that's moving in a direction that says they want to win a championship. And that's what I want at this point in my career.
Paul, you mentioned Kevin was asking what they're going to give up to get you guys when you were talking to Jason about it. And so, are you surprised as a future GM that they could bring in the core of the Celtics without giving up any of the core of their team?
Yeah, very surprised.